Hello. Another authentic video for you guys. So today I'm gonna tell you two stories about something I've just witnessed in my home country, and I just couldn't believe it. Basically, so I was first story. So I was working out somewhere there. You can't know where it is, but I was working out and I was doing some pull-ups, some muscle-ups, and some girl, like a 10-year-old girl, or like even younger, was just standing there and she was just, I don't know, she was just looking at me. She was very mesmerized by the things I was doing, right? And she was like, oh my God. And she was looking at me. And then she asked me, like, hey, sir, I'm sorry, but can you explain me how did you do that? And I was like, yeah, of course. I actually started like speaking to her, like, yeah, of course, don't worry, I'll show you. And I started showing her stuff, right? And she was so surprised. She was so energetic. She was so passionate about that. And then I hear her grandma saying like, "Hey, come here," to like her daughter, no, to like her granddaughter, right? And she tells her, "Don't talk to that boy. He's working out. Don't annoy him." And I'm sitting there. I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then when the girl came back, she was like very silent and very sad, right? Because she thought she did something wrong. And I was like, "Hey, don't worry, I'm gonna show you something." I started showing her stuff. And then when I left, when I was starting to like leave, I went to her grandma and I told her, "Don't worry, she's not annoying me. That's what kids do. They ask questions. They're wondering about stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what kids are made for, and that's what they're supposed to do, right?" And I'm gonna tell the second story, and then I'm gonna explain what I'm trying to say with this video. So the second story is I'm walking to home, right? And I see this kid, and his mother is like screaming at him, absolutely screaming. And he's saying like this, not listening. And she's telling him like, don't be honest with people. Don't be honest with people. I know there's some people that do stuff right and don't follow the rules, but it doesn't mean you should confront them. And I was like, are you stupid? And I'm guessing like both of these parents or like grandma, whatever you want to call it, like they're doing this with like a good reason. They don't want to hurt their child, right? But they don't want to do any harm to them, like psychologically and mentally and physically. And even so, like, did it? Are you thinking about like the first story? The grandma is literally trying to stop the kid from being passionate about something. She found something that is interesting to her, and she says, "Fuck, no." She says that, and she kills something that's good inside of her. Second story, this mom literally teaches her child to not confront people that do bad stuff. And that's when I like started thinking about how important it is for us as people to recognize our childhoods and the way we have been treated. What I mean by that is our parents, even my parents, I love them so much. They are people and they make mistakes and they teach us wrong stuff. They teach us stuff that sometimes they're scared for us and they don't want us to do something stupid even though we're doing it with the right intention, or they're too tired after work. And they teach us something. And because when this grandma and when this mother is telling this kid, it's not that simple, because that kid is gonna grow up and is going to start thinking that it shouldn't, when something is interesting to her, that she shouldn't ask questions. She shouldn't be interested in that. And you're just gonna kill somebody that's gonna live a life that's filled with passion, right? It's the same with like the other kid. You already know, you already have a brain to think about that. And what I'm trying to say is, every single one of us people, I'm gonna give you a task. So every single one of you people should think about how have you been raised as a child? And when you think about that, you should really recognize some patterns, because all of us have patterns. Every single one of us has told us, every single one of our parents has told us to shut up or to not do something, like whatever. And we should really think about that. We should ask, wait, why is that? Is that the right thing? And we should start breaking those patterns, because every single one of the things we have been taught by our parents and by our teachers is some way of programmed thinking that we do it naturally. We should start thinking about that. We should say no. We should say no to that. We start thinking, we should start analyzing, is this the right thing to do with our own minds? Because if you don't do that, you'll be your mother's insecurities or your mother's bad behaviors or your mother's thoughts. It doesn't mean that these parents are wrong. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. But every single person has their own opinion. And if you don't ask yourself, why is the things that my parents have taught me right? If you don't ask that question, then you're never gonna be your own person. You're never gonna realize, like, wait, hold on, maybe that isn't right. That's not the way I think. That's the way my mother or my teacher or my grandma or my fucking brother thinks. That's not me. And when you start doing that, you start finding like so many stuff about yourself, so many patterns about yourself, and so many wrong ways of thinking. And you actually start realizing who you are as a person. And that's when you start. That sounds so funny, because I don't know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Listen to me. Focus. Focus. That's when you really start realizing who you are, and that's when you really start working properly. And that's when you really start to work with passion. And even with me, I do it. I've realized like so many things. Like, for example, no offense to my mother or grandmother, but I've always tried to like do stuff instead of me. I've literally spoke this with my mother like right now. And like I've grew up, and I've started to realize, I've started to think that I can't do stuff on my own. Afterwards, I moved to the Netherlands on my own, basically. And I actually can't live alone. I can't live without my mother cooking for me, with her like telling me how to study. I can still do it on my own. You know why? Because I said, wait, maybe that's not right. Maybe the thoughts that have been implemented to me as a child aren't right. Maybe I'm different than what I think. And we should start breaking those barriers, like Kanye West said. We should start breaking those barriers, We should start collapsing all of these thoughts and actually start objectively thinking about the stuff that has been said to us. And I challenge you guys to actually do this, and maybe say say in the comments, what have you learned about your patterns, and what have you learned about yourself, and what have you realized you should do instead of what you're doing now? What's something new that you should do? I challenge you guys. I love you. That's a very short, authentic video, but it can be put to use. And like, subscribe, love me, and yeah, goodbye, guys.